Title: At my sister's wedding, they sat me next to the restrooms. 10 minutes later, she was in tears. I was halfway through my sister's vows when I realized where they'd seated me. A folding chair, plastic, right next to the restrooms. My stomach twisted. Across the aisle, distant cousins, people I barely knew, were draped in silk and champagne, their eyes sparkling at the front row like they'd been promised the world. I laughed to myself, a hollow, sharp laugh. This was betrayal, plain and simple, dressed in taffeta and flowers. I remember when my sister and I were inseparable. She was fire, I was ice. Together we could have burned down the world, or at least our small, predictable one. I trusted her implicitly, believed she'd always see me. But today, she looked past me as if I were a shadow, a minor inconvenience, a mistake she'd somehow overlooked. It didn't start here. The cracks appeared quietly, like hairline fractures you don't notice until the structure collapses. Invitations rerouted, whispered phone calls that stopped when I entered the room, subtle eye rolls when I spoke up in family discussions. At first, I doubted myself. I'm careful, observant, always precise, but even I questioned my perception. Until I saw it. The text messages, the whispered plans, the deliberate sidelining. Not by accident, by design. I didn't react. Not then. I couldn't. Betrayal is a blade best held steady before it strikes. I studied them, cataloged every slight, every whispered conspiracy. Every insult, every omission, every staged smile was a puzzle piece, and I'm good at puzzles. The plan came to me quietly, methodically, surgical. First, I made them comfortable, let them enjoy their small victories. Let my sister think she'd won. Let the world assume I was fragile, irrelevant. I started by collecting evidence, quietly, invisibly. Conversations recorded, schedules noted, financial favors documented. Little things they never thought mattered. They were so busy arranging appearances, I had the backstage. Then I whispered into the right ears. Mutual friends, aunts, uncles. Not accusations, hints. Shadows of doubt that grew like cracks in glass. Today, at the wedding, I walked in like I belonged nowhere. I let them see me, smile at me faintly, then turned and slid my chair next to the restrooms. I could smell the bleach, the faint perfume, and I felt a calm, dangerous sort of freedom. They assumed I was defeated. They assumed I was watching the ceremony choke me. They assumed wrong. 10 minutes later, it started. My sister excused herself from the front row. The photographer's lens followed her, but no one else noticed the tremor in her hands. I did. I always do. By the time she reached the edge of the garden, she was sobbing. Not quietly, not politely. The entire aisle heard it. Her husband, the distant cousins, the well-dressed guests, they all froze. And in that silence, they finally saw the pattern they'd ignored for years. How they had belittled me, sidelined me, assumed I lacked teeth or claws. I let her cry. Let her see me. The betrayal had shifted. The narrative had shifted. I didn't need to speak. I didn't need to justify. The world witnessed it, felt it, understood it. Later, when the chaos settled and the photographer was discreetly ushered away, she approached me, tear-streaked and frantic. I didn't flinch. I didn't comfort. I merely let her words stumble over themselves, as if she were discovering the truth for the first time. And in that moment, I realized revenge isn't about spectacle. It's about timing, about letting those who betray you witness the consequences they never imagined. I walked away that day with no applause, no dramatic confrontation, just the quiet satisfaction of order restored. People spoke in hushed tones afterward. Mutual friends admitted they had suspected. Distant relatives realized they had been complicit. The power balance had shifted, subtly, irreversibly. I'm not cruel. I'm deliberate. And sometimes the sweetest victory isn't shouting from the rooftops, it's standing silently, letting the betrayers crumble quietly under the weight of their own arrogance. At the end, I looked back once. The folding chair stood empty. I smiled. Not with glee, not with malice, with certainty. They thought they'd controlled the story. I had written the final chapter. And for once, everyone saw me.